I made a video not too long ago where it's titled Nature's Destruction Against Life is Too Strong for Life unless forcefully made and maintained. So basically what that title is saying is that unless life is forcefully made and forcefully maintained, nature's destruction against life will be too strong for life to ever emerge. So the force it takes to make life out of nature and to maintain it within nature, to constantly keep it in preservation within nature against the forces of nature, it would need a very strong force because nature's force against life is too strong. So in order for you to go up the mountain, you need to already have very strong muscles within you in order to fight against the force that mountain will be posing against you so that you can reach the top of that mountain, which is life, right? But in order to get to that to the top of that mountain, you can't garner that strength to get to the top of the mountain, which and have life if you don't have any of the systems in place to get there, especially when you desperately already need those systems in place, even when you're at the top of that mountain, to keep you from getting back down that mountain. Right? So imagine this: someone's already at the bottom of the mountain trying to get to the top of the mountain, which is life, and then someone is already at the top of the mountain, which is life. So that person already at the top of the mountain has life, but he or she has trillions of molecular systems in place. Let's just say it's a bacteria, right? That bacteria, which is let's say is the most simplest living cell, which the simplest living cell must have at least 1,000 or so plus genes. That's how much information it must have. Otherwise, it'll perish. Those are the facts. They stripped it down. They stripped their genome down to as low as possible, which was about like 400 and something genes. But that creature was barely alive. It had to be taken care of. It had to be spoon fed. Literally, it had to be babysitted. If it was ever let go in the wild, it'll just decay. It stood no chance against the wild because it was horribly stripped of all its necessary informational system, which is its genome, where it could survive. So when the creature has all its genes, then it can survive on its own, right? So that creature, that most simplest organism, is at the top of the mountain already, right? In order for that most simplest living organism to not go back down that mountain, which is death, it has to have trillions of molecular systems already in place, working perfectly, just to keep it from going back down that mountain. And even when it has all of that in place, still eventually, because of wear and tear, because of the strength of that force trying to bring it back down the mountain, because that force is so strong, it eventually gets sick and dies. Yeah, bacteria get sick and die too here because nature is that strong, right? So because it's breaking down its biological systems, so it develops diseases within itself. It's not that it got sick from an exogenous source, from an outside source. No, it got sick because it itself was getting weaker and its systems was not working correctly. So it just got itself sick because it wasn't working optimally. Okay, so if a creature that's already at the top of the mountain has to go through trillions of systems just to keep it from going back down that mountain, and eventually it still goes back down that mountain because the force is so strong, then how on earth did a creature that is starting from scratch get on top of that mountain when it had not even one of those trillions of systems in place to get there? Right? So that's why I titled the video as Nature's Destruction Against Life is Too Strong for Life. It's too strong for life unless forcefully made and maintained. Now, my friend, who is a Christian, my boy, my best friend, it's not just my best friend. Like, he's the only one that I could talk like deeply about the Almighty, like long conversations and things like that. That's my brother. So he doesn't look into these things. So I automatically knew what he meant when he wrote what he wrote. And I knew it was coming from a lack of looking into the material, which I was at the same place that he was at, because had I not been so passionate about trying to get people to believe in the Almighty because he's there, I mean, like, if he wasn't there, it's a different story, but he's there. So like, I'm just trying to wake people up, so I ventured into this field to understand the opposition so that I could win the opposition over to the truth, to the facts of the matter. But because my boy is oblivious to this, he wrote this, which is on the screen. He said after watching the video. So he watched the video and then he said this. He said, or while he was watching the video, he said, "You mean an anomaly in the equilibrium?" Or question, "You mean an anomaly in the equilibrium?" So you have to see that video to see what I mean. He says, "Makes perfect sense, brother. Forces of nature will take over. Reminds me of the giants and all of past humans and how the earth is filled with its carcasses." The Gospel of Thomas, verse 56. In a sense, since we have been cursed by death, we are an anomaly to this earth. So nature must take over. Genesis 3:19. In paradise, we will no longer be the anomaly to earth, since we won't physically die anymore. So I understood where he was coming from, but I had to address him, privately to see if he meant what I thought he meant. And I think what I say in this audio would be important to some of those who may have this belief, because again, I don't believe this is the first time I've heard this belief. So I wanted to make it public so that in case anybody else may have this belief, you can hear my opinions on it, and hopefully it'll, change your perspective. Yes, I saw the comment. I wrote a reply, but I didn't post it yet because I wanted you to understand my reply first before I posted it. So you would understand me, because I don't think you because we already know what time it is. So before I delved into the research, I wasn't as educated about the subject as I was now. Like, now I understand the mind frame from which the opposition is talking. But before that, because I never ventured into it, I was speaking from ignorance. So now I know what they mean. So now I know exactly how to counter them. So since you haven't looked into it, you're kind of oblivious to the arguments too. That's why your reply was that. If I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is that because the Almighty created humans to live on the earth, nature is not opposed to earth. Nature is not opposed to life. Nature is pro-life, right? Is that what you're saying? So basically, nature helps us to live. Nature doesn't break us down. In other words, it will help Adam and Eve live for a long time, right? And that the only reason why we die is because we sinned, right? Let me see if I understand you correctly. Okay, good. So yeah, so I okay, good. So I understand you correct. So I understood you correctly. Okay, so this is the part. This is what I wrote in my reply. I'm still gonna post it, but I want you to understand the what I mean, so that you in case you do reply, you would know how to reply, because you would have understood what I mean by what I'm saying in the reply, right? So this basically what I'm gonna say in the reply is, no, we we have always been the anomaly, right? We have always been the anomaly, even before sin. That is why, remember, the animals haven't sinned, but the animals die, right? A bee is not meant to live forever. A bee only lives for about a couple of days and it dies. That's supposed to happen. If death was never in the picture, maggots would never have been created by God, and vultures would never have been created by God, and lions would never have been created to kill animals. You know what I mean? So death is natural, and nature is always against life, right? And here's how it's gonna hit you. This is how it's gonna make sense to you. Remember, and this is what I put in the reply. Remember, the tree of knowledge of good and bad was what Adam and Eve ate from, but there was also a tree of life, and God said that let's remove Adam and Eve from the garden, lest they eat from the tree of life and live forever. This means that Adam and Eve were always intended to die. Period. And and the only way they would have countered death is if they were to eat from the tree of life, right? So that means that nature was already trying to break Adam and Eve down. Remember, if nature is not trying to break us down, why would God create? And this is where the knowledge about the subject comes in, which, like I said, you're not oblivious. You're not privy to this, like you're not aware of this because you haven't looked into it, because you don't need to. We don't need to. We know there's a God. But in order to convince the foolish people, the evolutionists, we have to go into their mindset and understand how the world works to help them to realize that, listen, there is no way life is an anomaly. Life is a big paradox. Life is unnatural, is highly unnatural. What's natural is for things to die, or simply put, for things to not live, right? That's what's natural. That's why everything that does live is always broken down, and including humans. That's why, in order for humans to not die, they would need to eat from the tree of life. But because Adam and Eve never got a chance to eat from that, that's why eventually they died. And what was the time frame in which their biological system would permit them to live while nature is trying to break them down? 1,000 years. That's why God said, okay, if you guys don't listen to me, well, then you will never get to eat from the tree of life. And because you will never get to eat from the tree of life, within a day, you're going to die. You'll be dead. You see? So the biological system is designed by the Almighty for us to combat the effects of nature. Nature is always trying to break us down, but because of how the molecular machines in our body works, it counteracts the detrimental effects of nature against us, right? But eventually, those systems will break down, wear and tear, because that's what happens. Because we are entities from the earth, and entities from the earth, every structure from the earth eventually breaks down, right? But because we are living entities, we have the molecular machines to repair us. What is the point of God creating us to repair ourselves if we don't need to be repaired? That means we do need to be repaired. But if we need to be repaired, why do we need to be repaired? Because nature is trying to break us down, right? And the only thing that will counteract that is what? Is the tree of life, which we never got a chance to eat from. So therefore, we die, right? So life, period, has always been the anomaly. Even humans. And of course, animals, yeah, they never sinned, but they still die. And vultures are there for death. So death is always in the picture. That's why there are creatures created specifically for when death happens, right? When animals die in the sea, there are maggots at the bottom of the sea that eat off those carcasses. They are there for death. If death never happens, those creatures will starve and die. So no, death needs to happen so that they can live. Death needs to happen so that vultures can live, right? But death is not supposed to affect humans. It will affect humans. Yes, it will affect humans, lest we eat from the tree of life, which is the reward of obedience. But the curse of disobedience is what nature is always going to do, which is break us down, which is what it's doing now. And now we have been saved from that through Christ. So in Armageddon, after Armageddon, we will still have death, will always still be in the picture. If someone sins, even when he's old and still young and even when he's old, he'll still be a young man, but he will die because he disobeyed God. That's what Revelation says. So you see, now you'll be more privy to the subject. So you see, it's not so much that death was the curse. It's more that death was always going to happen. And the curse was that we would never get to eat from the tree of life. That was the curse in actuality. And God did curse the earth. He cursed the land. He said, thistles and thorns, it'll grow for you, right? But the thing is, the earth was still trying to break everything down, which is why even if Adam and Eve lived in the garden, they would still have died. The only reason why they were removed from the garden was because so that they would not have access to the tree of life. But if the tree of life was not in that garden, God would have had no problem. God would have had no problem with them staying in that garden, because they would still die in that garden regardless. Them being removed from the garden was so that they would have thistles and thorns grow for them outside of the garden, and Adam would suffer from that. But so it's not so much that because they sinned, they died. No, it's more that because they sinned, they never got to eat from the thing that would cause them to be able to live forever. You know? And since these things has happened, since death has entered into the picture, this causes room for all sorts of deterioration within the genome, which is why cancer becomes. And remember, things break down over time. So there was a video I did about this where I explained why Cain could have married his sister. About this study of epigenetics proves why God permitted that. But and that how things break down over time. So right now, if someone was to marry their sister, was to sleep with their sister, which sex is marriage, right? If they were to sleep with their sister, they would and create a child. That child would have a whole bunch of defects, because the time frame in which the human genome has lasted to this point has now caused so many problems in the genome that everything is just messed up. It's just messed up. Period. And it all came from us not being able to eat from that tree of life. It's like the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. Like everything just makes sense. And remember too, after the flood, when Noah came out of the ark with his family, God reversed that curse. Right? So the curse that he placed upon the land, if this was in thorns, it will grow for you. God reversed that curse. So that curse is no longer in effect. So it's not the cursing of the land that caused nature to be detrimental to humanity. No. Whether they were in the garden before God cursed the land, whether they were in the land which God cursed, whether they are living post-flood when God reverses a curse, death has always still been in the picture, regardless. And the tree of life would have been the only thing that would have countered that, right? So I mean, so basically, if someone was to say, "Oh, it's only because God cursed the land after Adam and Eve sinned, that's why we are dying." Well, then why are we still dying now after God has reversed the curse since the time of Noah? That, I mean, and creatures were dying in the garden before Adam and Eve sinned. Insects were dying. You know what I mean? Like Adam would have stepped on a couple of ants probably, and bees would have died. Bees were not meant to live forever. No. What were the vultures eating in the Garden of Eden? You know what I mean? They were eating the dead carcasses of, and oh yeah, and let me add this, because I know some Christians would be like, well, doesn't it say that a lion will eat straw just like a bull does, right? No. See, yes, it says that, but it says that the lion will eat straw like the bull does for a little while. I don't know if it's in that same verse or if it's another passage in Isaiah where it says that. It says, for a little while, the lamb will reside with the wolf. You know, one of those passages, it says that because scripture interprets scripture. So it lets you know that it will happen for a while, not forever. Why is it crucial that that happens for a while? When the flood came and Noah and all the creatures and his family entered the ark, the lamb was residing with the wolf for a little while. In that time frame, the lion was eating straw, just like the bull, because that was not the time for the lion to be eating the sheep that were in the in the ark. Now that was not the time for the wolf, whatever the prime wolf was that differentiated into all the varieties of wolves and dogs we have today. Whatever that prime wolf was, that was not the time for that wolf to be eating the lamb. No, the wolf had to reside with the creatures that it was supposed to be eating for a little while. The vultures could not be eating dead carcasses for a little while. Why? Because that was not the time. When Armageddon comes and all these creatures and after after they got out of that ark, the lion could not start devouring, the lambs right away. They have to reside with these creatures for a little while. Why? So that these creatures could repopulate the earth. And after the repopulation is deemed fit by God, that okay, now the wolf can go back to his instincts to hunt. Now you can go and hunt, but you can't hunt now. So when after Armageddon, there will be few creatures left, just like after the ark, after Noah's flood. So these creatures have to reside for the lamb with the lamb, and the sheep and the rabbit for a little while, and allow these creatures to repopulate the earth. Once everything is repopulated into optimal conditions, then now the lion will go right back to its primal instinct, which is to hunt, because that's what it was created for. Its claws, its canines. They're not herbivores. They don't have teeth like a sheep. You know what I mean? They're meant to hunt. Their digestive system is short because they're meant to eat carcasses. They're not meant to eat grass, and they don't have three stomachs to be eating grass, or and they don't have the digestive system to be eating fruits and berries. You know what I mean? So yeah, the bear eats fruits and berries, and the bear eats salmon, and you know what? So fish won't be eaten. The fish will just keep populating the oceans and become filthy. No, there's a balance of things. When wolves were taken out of the national park, in one of those national parks, like in the Midwest, there was erosion and there was, because there was no grass, because there were no um wolves to hunt the herbivores to keep the balance of the ecosystem, right? So there was too many herbivores, and they were eating all the grass, and there was erosion. It spoils the ecosystem. So all these creatures, death is meant to happen, and nature is always gonna kill, right? Okay, I think I've spoken long enough. Yo, bro, it's crazy. Yo, God is listening, bro, and He's helping me to answer you, because as soon as I finished recording, while I was recording, you were asking that question. That's crazy, bro. That's so crazy. But it's not crazy, because God is helping me, so it's not crazy. I shouldn't be saying that. Um, but this is the other thing, bro. You understand that the only thing that changed after because you're asking about the firmament and all of that, which I basically just addressed, but you do realize that the only difference between post pre-flood and post-flood world is the time frame in which humanity could live. I addressed this in a video a long time ago on YouTube that I posted. This is what happened, bro. God killed two birds with one stone. He said He was going to destroy all life on earth, and He was also going to reduce the lifespan of man, because it's by His Spirit that we live. So as we are living, and we are and we are living in debauchery, we are literally affecting Him, because it's His Spirit, right? So that's why He said, my Spirit will not continue to dwell with man for a long duration. Some translation says forever. No, the correct translation is, my spirit will not continue to bear with man for a long duration, because he is only flesh. And then later on, after the flood, He gives the reason why. He says, because all the thoughts of man is wicked from their youth up. So Scripture interprets Scripture. So basically, when God destroyed the earth, He brought the heavenly waters to the earth. That heavenly water was protecting us from the rays. It also caused nitrogen to be more abundant in the atmosphere, which allowed humanity and all creatures not only to grow to much larger sizes, henceforth the dinosaurs, but it also caused them to live for a much longer period of time, right? But after the flood, before the flood, God did not command for dinosaurs to enter the ark, because He knew, obviously, as creator of the universe and creator of the earth, that post flood world would not be conducive for large creatures like dinosaurs. So that's when dinosaurs became extinct. Hence why some dinosaurs are frozen and mammoths are frozen in ice during the ice age. All of these things just make sense, but that's going way off topic. So the creatures that could survive post flood were the creatures that God permitted to go enter the ark. So a lot of creatures became extinct during the flood and never resurfaced, because God did not cause them to permit that. But because of the environment, now humanity can no longer live to that old to 1,000 years. Neither can they grow to the giant sizes that they could have grown to post pre-flood. So nature was always breaking things down even before the flood, but the biological system and the environment was not as detrimental, right? Was not as potently detrimental. So now it's even more detrimental, because the protection that we have from the rays of the sun and nature's deleterious effects is now removed. So now we are even more prone to diseases and breaking down of nature is more potent now than it was before, but it has always been potent. It's just that it's more potent now. So now our lifespan is cut dramatically short. But this was intentional, because God said He would destroy the earth. He would destroy humanity, not the earth, and he would cut the days of man short. And He did this by allowing nature to be even more detrimental to us, so that we could only live to about 120 years with special mightiness, right? So all of this just makes sense, bro. It all makes sense. No, I disagree, bro, because Solomon said, for God has put eternity in our hearts, so that from the beginning to end, we will never find out all that God has done. What Solomon is basically saying is, no, the Almighty wants you to look. That's why He's put eternity in your heart. You don't want to die because there's so much to do. You don't want to die because you enjoy life. You want to live. In other words, you want to discover all that there is about life. So God has put eternity in your heart, because even if you live forever with you searching, which He wants you to do, which is why he's going to grant you to be able to live forever, granted you obey him. Even if you look forever, all the things he's done, you would not, I shouldn't say all the things because you can't, right? That's the point. You would never find from start to finish all the works of his hands. So no, we are supposed to try to understand. That's why he's given us a conscience. That's why he's made us in his image, for the purpose of searching him. And we searched for him also partly by looking at the things he has done. So he wants us to be investigators. He wants us to be scientists, right? Ironically, scientists want to remove God out of the picture, but you can't understand things fully unless you realize that it took intelligence to do it. And so you can't get to the basis of something unless you go through the intellectual route in which the intellectual used to create the thing which he used intelligence to make. You know what I mean? Yeah. So no, we are meant to try to fully understand. We never would fully understand and comprehend God, but we are supposed to try to do so. That's why he made us to be intellectuals. He didn't make us dumb like animals, even though animals are not dumb, but they follow instincts.
Bro, damn, I'm having my kid here going crazy, so I'm trying to focus. Yeah, but I mean, I stand firm by my point, so it kind of contradicts yours. Cause he's like, you say you disagree, but how can you disagree? We will never find it, bro. Never. I understand what you're saying. He wants us to keep trying to find, but it's like we will never find it, bro.
When you say trying to find it, what do you mean by trying to find it? Because remember, it's not trying to find what? Because trying to find the Almighty, no, we will never find him. Obviously, I mean, what? Yeah, I found him, but when you say find him, it's not like you found where he is, because he's everywhere, right? Like what? So what do you mean by it? Like because he wants for us to search for him, and he will let himself be found by us, if we search for him with all our heart. But once you find him, it's not like there is God, I see him. No, it's not like that. It's metaphorical, right? But when you say search for it, we will never find it, what do you mean to find that? Because there is so much in life to investigate, and just because you will not find out all of them doesn't mean you shouldn't try to, right? And so like what is it? Like, find out how flies are made, find out why they die, find out why they only live for a short period of time, find out the anatomy of a vulture, find out why ants are so strong and they can lift multiple times their weight, find all the fruits of the world, find out why this is that, find out, like, no, investigate. But no matter how much investigation you do, you would never fully you would never you would never investigate everything that God has done. God wants you to, yes, investigate so that you will see just how unsearchable all that I have done really is. But do not stop investigating. Please do so, because unless you do so, you will not see my glory. My glory being that my works are unlimited and unsearchable. But you only can derive at that through investigative work.